Good evening, boys and girls. Guess what time it is? It's story time. It's story time, it's story time. You haven't got to pay a dime. If you want to have some fun, get a comfy seat and sit right down. Now listen very carefully, for you can learn as much as me. Make believe in what you hear. These stories I shall read to you. La 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 la. La 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 la. And our story today is called Miss Nelson is Back. So last time you heard Miss Nelson is missing. So now Miss Nelson is back. And this was written by Harry Allard and James Marshall. Miss Nelson is back. One Friday, Miss Nelson told her class that she was going to have her tonsils out. "I'll be away next week," she said, "and I expect you to behave." "Yes, Miss Nelson," said the kids in 207. But at recess, that was another story. "Whoa! While Miss Nelson is away, we can really act up," said the kids. "Not so fast," said a big kid from 309. "Haven't you heard about Viola Swamp?" "Who?" asked Miss Nelson kids. "Miss Swamp is the meanest substitute in the whole world," said the big kids. "Nobody acts up when she's around." "Oh," said Miss Nelson kids. "She's a real witch," said a big kid. "Oh," said Miss Nelson kid. "I'll just bet you get the swamp," said the big kids. On Monday morning, Miss Nelson kids were all in their seats. They were very nervous. Some of them had not slept well all weekend. I wonder why. "If we get the swamp, I'll just die," said one kid. They heard footsteps in the hall. Slowly, the knob turned and the door opened. It was Mr. Blansford, the principal. "I shall personally take over the class," he said. Miss Nelson's kids were so relieved, but they soon learned that Mr. Blansford was not a lot of fun. All morning, Mr. Blansford tried to amuse the class with his corny cat tricks. "Oh, brother," said the class. That afternoon, Mr. Blansford showed the class his favorite shadow pictures. "This is kid stuff," said the class. The next day, Mr. Blansford demonstrated his favorite bird calls. They were not a success. And for the 2 days, Mr. Blansford showed slides of his goldfish Lucille. Miss Nelson's kids had never been so bored. While dusting eraser in the schoolyard, 3 of the ringleaders in 207 discussed the situation. "Something will have to be done," they said. "We must get rid of Blansford." And they hatched a plan. After school, they painted and sewed and borrowed some old clothes. What were they up to? And they practiced some very difficult stunt work in the backyard. The next day, they weren't in the class. "That's too bad," said Mr. Blansford. "They'll miss all the excitement." Mr. Blansford was about to show the class his collection of ballpoint pens from all over the world when someone came to the door. Slowly, the knob turned and the door opened. "Oh, look! Miss Nelson is back!" A tall, lumpy Miss Nelson tottered into the room. Mr. Blansword was surprised. "You're back sooner than we expected," he said. A tall and lumpy Miss Nelson didn't speak. Her throat must still be sore," said the kids. "Are you sure you're well enough?" said Mr. Blansword. "She's sure," said the kids. "Well, in that case, I'm getting back to my office. Nice to have you back, Miss Nelson." And he left the room. "Hot dog!" cried the class. "We got rid of Mr. Blansword. Now we can do just as we please." And at the stroke of 10, the kids from 207 left the building. No one stopped them. They went straight to the movies, where they saw the monster that ate Chicago twice. "This is really living," they said. Afterward, they went to Lulu's, where they stuffed themselves silly. But soon they made a serious mistake. Heading back to school, they passed Miss Nelson's house. Miss Nelson couldn't believe her eyes. "Those are my kids. What are they doing out of school?" she said in a scratchy voice. "And who is that with them?" Miss Nelson telephoned Mr. Blansword to see what was going on. "You're not Miss Nelson," said Mr. Blansword. "Miss Nelson is back." And he hung up. "Can't fool me," he said. Said Miss Nelson. "Something will have to be done." And she went to her closet. Back in 207, Miss Nelson's kids were spending a great afternoon. They were very pleased with themselves. "We should do this more often," they said. And they didn't notice a figure in the hall. And the door opened. "My name is Viola Swamp," said the lady in a scratchy voice. "Yikes! The swamp," said the kids. "That's right. And I'm here to whip this class into shape. Get back to these desks on a double." The class did as it was told. The big kid from 309 was certainly right. Miss Swamp was a real witch. She knew how to get results. The class did a whole week's work in no time. "We shouldn't have gotten rid of Mr. Blansword," they said. "Pipe down," said Miss Swamp. Or just then, something under the desk attracted her attention. It was a mask. "Aha! So that's your little game," said Miss Swamp. And she tried on the mask just as Mr. Blansword stepped into the room. "Miss Nelson, I'm of the opinion that someone has been impersonating you." Whispered the kids. "You don't say," said Miss Swamp. "Probably just some kids acting up. I'm sure it won't happen again." And Mr. Blansword left. "And it won't, will it?" asked Miss Swamp to the class. "Because the swamp will be watching." A minute later, Miss Nelson appeared. "I'm back," she said. "Hot dog!" cried the kids. "Are we glad to see you?" "Didn't you have fun with Mr. Blansword?" asked Miss Nelson. Said the kids. They decided not to mention Miss Viola Swamp, but they wondered why Miss Nelson hadn't seen her in the hall. The end.